Hi, welcome to the Christian and Tiffany channel. Today we're going to be talking about why we love the Enneagram.
We love the Enneagram.
Give me a chance. Yeah, baby, try just one more night. Then make up your mind.
Some of you may be thinking, what is the Enneagram?
True, I'd never heard of it.
Or maybe you've heard of it, but you're like, it's just another one of those things, whatever, it's a trend, it's, I'm not doing it, whatever, right? I don't want to be numbered, I'm not a number. And I totally get that. However, there are so many great things about the Enneagram that make it worth it, taking the time to get in and get to know yet another personality profile. So I think the main difference that I have found in the Enneagram is that it gives this huge range of your personality potential, of like the potential for what you can be like if you're like in your element and you're going and you're flowing and you're at peace and you're happy. Like, you can be a world changer. Any one of these numbers can be serious world changers. Versus if you're under stress and you're unhealthy and there's a lot of things going on and you're like at your worst, it's like, this is what you'll look like. And so for me, when I read that and I read the description of like what an unhealthy number one is, because I'm a 1. I touched my mic. I'm a 1. And Christian's an 8. And so as I read that, I was like, oh, that's when I act like that. That's what that's all about. Like, it's a known fact that that's just part of my perspective. And now that I know that it's part of my perspective, I feel like I have so much more control over it because I know how I can swing it to the healthy side and what it can look like, right? So I got this sort of sense of control. So how many numbers are there?
It's a great question. 1 through 9.
Yeah.
1 through 9. 9 numbers.
9 numbers. And if you really dig into the Enneagram, there are a lot of details and elements, and you really are not just a number. You're a number with a wing. You have all these different levels of each number that you can be. There's different variants that you might have that will affect your personality. And then, like, when you're healthy, you'll gravitate towards a completely different number. Did I say healthy? Mm-hmm. When you're unhealthy, then you'll gravitate to a totally different number. So there's so many layers, like an onion, right? Like so many levels and layers to the Enneagram that as much time as you want to spend really digging deep into knowing yourself, there's enough content out there to do that.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of just the gist of the Enneagram and what it is. And we've found that there's 2 ways that you can use the Enneagram. And the first one is just for personal development. You want to talk on that?
Yeah. So, personal development, I'm an 8. So what that means is challenger, obtruse. That pretty much sums it up. Challenger and obtruse. And, but I find that a lot of 8s don't realize that the world perceives us that way. And so in personal development, what I found out is when we're under stress, heck, even just naturally, we're very competitive, challenging. The number 8s usually are. And there's a low, medium, and high range. Some people are really, really high, and some are mid, a little bit lower. So maybe some of those challenging tendencies come out. But for personal development, in order to get along with other people, it's important to maybe not be so obtruse sometimes.
Yeah.
And beginning to understand what it means that not everybody wants to be pushed, that not everybody wants to be challenged. Mm-hmm. When I'm working out, I love when the coach is yelling at me and get out there, get it done. Man, I get motivated.
Yep.
1s, maybe not so much. And so, learning how to grow and what that number means will help you relate with other people. And that's just part of the personal development journey.
Yeah. So, for example, for me as a 1, one of my tendencies is to be a perfectionist, to see the way that I think things should be, the way I think things should look, and then trying to manipulate all the pieces around me, meaning my family members, my friends, my circumstances, to fit into that picture of what I think it should look like. And so I've had to learn, as I've studied myself and learned those tendencies, that that's not really okay. Now, there are times when it's awesome because we have people in our lives that really need that encouragement and that direction, and for somebody to be able to step in and say, hey, I kind of see things a little bit differently than maybe you see it. What do you think about this? But the natural tendency for a 1 is just to impose those thoughts and opinions on other people, and it can come across really pushy. And then you can also come across really judgmental and critical because you're like, you're not doing it right, you know? So I'm getting ahead of myself. We are going to do videos on each specific number. So watch for that. It's going to be really, really fun. But the idea is that in studying your individual number, you really begin to understand what your tendencies are, the good ones and the bad ones, and it really gives you an opportunity to maybe change some of those behaviors.
Yeah. And number 3, really, what I find separates the Enneagram from everything else is just that relationship growth, the relational connection between the 2 numbers. How does a 1 relate to an 8, to a 2, to a 3? Instead of it all being kind of self-focused, you know, with a DISC profile, this is all the things that you have, or life languages, or Myers-Briggs, or Johnson O'Connor. It's
all
you,
great,
you,
by
you,
the way,
you, versus Enneagram really has a lot to do with how we relate to others, which is really good, especially in marriage. You know, knowing how to relate to your spouse can help a lot.
Well, for example, being married to an 8, first of all, I was really attracted to him when we first met because he was just so aggressive and in charge, and he knew what he wanted. Well, there's that too. But he knew what he wanted, and he was not afraid to demand it, really. And so I was really drawn in by that strength of personality. But then, you know, in our first year of marriage, me being a 1 and feeling like I have to get things right, and not because I feel like I am perfect, but I feel like if I'm not perfect, I'm not going to be loved. So I work really hard to make things right. And there was one time, I think it was within our first month of marriage, I made him a sandwich, and I was really proud of the sandwich. I mean, it wasn't just meat and cheese. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like bologna and like plastic wrapped American cheese. It was like, you know, real sandwich with veggies on it and like sliced onions and the whole deal, right? And I brought it to him, and he was like, oh, babe, this sandwich is so good. Maybe next time you can add this or do this or do this. It'd be so good if you did this. And y'all, I'm not kidding. I walked out of the house and I bawled my eyes out. So his personality is just to be direct, say like it is, right? And my personality is, tell me I did it right, because I need that affirmation.
Well, now, so in the 8's defense, it wasn't a judgment.
No.
It wasn't a right or wrong
conversation.
thing. It was just conversation.
Yeah.
The lens that you heard it through was, this sandwich is not good enough. I spent all this time and I tried this.
And I'm wondering if I should have married you. I mean, I took it to extremes. Like, he's realizing that I'm not the wife he expected. I mean, y'all, we're so hard. 1s are hard on themselves. We have an inner voice. Anyways, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So what I found, though, is that by studying the number 8, I began to realize that the things that he says, especially when he's being direct or challenging me, are not because he's displeased with me. It's because he loves me and he wants to see me grow. And when he's upset and he's stressed and he is acting poorly, right? We all have that range of bad behavior that we're stressed and we lash out and we act poorly. I was able to take a step back and say, okay, he's stressed about work. I know that he's stressed about work. He's not really mad at me. He's just venting because I'm his closest friend, his closest relationship. I need to pull back my emotions, not get offended, and instead of coming to him and saying, you're being so mean and you hurt my feelings, and crying, which just makes him 1,000 times more stressed, I learned to say, hey babe, seems like you're having a really rough day. Do you want a back rub? And it just...
When did that happen? I'm ready. Let's do it.
Haven't I done the back rub?
I don't know. It's been a while. We should try that again.
I've done other things even more pleasing to lower the stress. So it's not, don't complain. Don't complain. But anyway, realizing that he's got triggers and that I actually have the ability as his wife to see the triggers and to help remove them and lower his stress. And the whole time it's about helping him, and it has nothing to do with my shortcomings. It's all to do with him and serving him. And so that's just been really huge for our marriage. I feel like I'm not crying quite as often from relational conflict. I mean, other reasons. But it's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. So that's the Enneagram, and that's what we're going to be doing with it and talking about it.
Yeah, so we're going to do a video for every one of the Enneagram numbers. So Enneagram 1 will be our first one, and we're just going to work our way all the way through to 9. Mm-hmm. Although I kind of want to just jump to 8 because we're really, we're experts on 1 and 8 for sure. But anyway, we are going to hit on all of them. We also have an Enneagram assessment tool that we are building so that you, if you don't know what your number is, can download this tool and you can figure out what your number is, figure out what your spouse's number is, and kind of work through that development process together as a couple. It's been super duper helpful.
It's really good. It's really, really good. It's opened my eyes to just a lot of things that I hadn't seen before. And there's lots of good tools out there. The 5 love languages, that's a part of it. But there's other parts of it as well that the Enneagram kind of dives into. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this. And we really look forward to getting those.
So stay tuned. Now, if you want up-to-date information on everything that we're doing and you don't want to wait until we actually post something, you want to know ahead of time, go to info@christiantiffany.com and sign up for our email list, and we will send those updates to you. But stay tuned because we have a lot of stuff that we're planning on sharing and presenting over the next couple of months before the end of the year. So subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications.
Click the bell, ring that bell.
And I would love this. I would love for you in the comments, if you know what your number is, to put your number down below. I would love to get an idea of all of our followers and subscribers and viewers of what your numbers are. Do we have a lot of 1s out there like me? Are there a lot of 8s or maybe 5s? 3? I don't know. So share your number if you know what it is. And keep watching because we've got more coming. Bye, guys.
Bye.